was notorious for deep darkness, monsters muse for mayhem and devise destruction. Dusk fell, fate and constellation, her telescopic gaze fixed upon the shooting stars of her chimera. His lion's pride constructed her demise, and his claws caressed her fragile figure. His daggered eyes and blazing breath branded her neck. His serpent's tail stained her spirit, and his toxin soiled her soul. The beast power was too much for this maiden to defend, so she cried and bled the bed with no explanation that could comprehend the misery that would befall her future from the heinous act of wicked man. How did it come to this? He seemed so ordinary. She was blinded by his lustful control and lack of empathy, a cunning chameleon of kindness and intimacy, criminally crafting her problems into personal propaganda, tailored tactics taking captive her emotions and corroding her conscience. His personality too lively to perceive any abnormality, avoiding respective responsibility with pretense and personal pity, deflecting his downfalls to delimit his degenerate heart from ever coming clean to his calloused cruelty. So she was broken, she was bruised, and she was betrayed. Her sorrowful scars subjected her to identity isolation, secluded and solitary where darkness became her cold company. Her tormented tears pool in her pillows and perverse thoughts snare her spirit. She screams for support from her suffocating sorrow, but her woes land on deaf ears and hollow walls. No one would heed her beckoning call. Her catastrophe of plaguing imagery haunted her memories, leaving her with a conflicted and contemplating conscience, pleading for the heavenly. She cried, God, why did you let this happen to me? I thought you loved me. I thought you would take care of me. Why did you leave me? Don't leave me. Don't leave me. But like a whisper in the wind, an echo eclipsed in eternity, he spoke. My beloved daughter, my perfect bride. My sovereignty can feel scary, but I do not look the other way when your life feels dreary. The heart of man may plan his footing, but I establish his steps. Created in my image and pleasing in my sight, you represent me, my adored design. Even torn, even tattered, and marked from iniquity, you will always be my vessel of honor and exquisite beauty, a reflection of me, an instrument of worship to God Almighty. Though the futility of creation prods your insecurities, those very fires of affliction are refining your properties. My decrees are heavenly, and my creativity knows no capacity. For I came to rescue you from sin and self, and by my blood I purchased you, my daughter, forever, with a virtuous vow to love you beyond measure. And so, my beloved, sometimes I permit what I hate in order to accomplish what I love, and my grace is sufficient for you as I decreed from heaven above. It eclipses mountains of suffering and magnifies my glory. It softens the edges of persistent pain and highlights my mercies. And so, my daughter, these tears are for teaching, for they that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Darling, weeping times are most suitable for sowing. We don't want the ground to be too dry. It's okay to feel grief. It's okay to mourn and cry, for the seeds of my grace will bloom, and the fruits of forgiveness I have given you will be consumed by an abundant multitude, my child. There is no intimacy without pain, and what the enemy meant to demean and demoralize, I meant for your good, for I do my best work in brokenness. Before time began, I predestined you in my sovereignty, and your past tragedy and agony was not arbitrary, but a cog in my perfect plan to give you hope and a joy-filled life in me eternally. I am here, my child. Rest in my immutability, for I am the balm for your every wound and peace for your grief, and the oceans of my grace stretch deeper than chasms or sea. Come and drown your sorrows in my immensity, and arise, comforted and refreshed from my mercies. For your constellation begins and ends with me in eternity.